Chapter 4, the BIA, Dependencies section. This is one of the 5 sections of the BIA that you do separately, combine them later. In order to go into dependencies, and to really learn this, we first have to understand what process mapping is. You can do dependencies without process mapping, although I personally have found that process mapping tends to be more valuable to do, and for most businesses, frankly, just being able to visualize how your thing operates is pretty helpful. So let's go into a basic idea of a process map, or the sort of tutorial that I'll often give to students, or the first intro to this concept that we do. It goes a little something like this. We'll separate people into groups, and then we'll say, hey, each group, make a process map for how you would go from waking up to getting to work. After they each make them, I have them switch groups and try to mess up their process maps, and then try to see how they can find alternate paths and fix them. So let's walk through what one of those might look like. So over here, you would have a square or a circle or something that you would fit this in. So you'd have some sort of like box or something. And then that box might be a wake up, because in order to go from, sleeping to getting to work, you'd have waking up. Another box you might have might be eating breakfast, having a shower, transportation getting there, putting on clothes, whatever. So we'd have an overall process here of morning routine, and then we'd have the things that would fit it. And often they'll make this linearly, but it won't necessarily be actually linearly, but we'll get to that in a second. So we'd have wake up leading to, perhaps there's someone that wants to brush their teeth and then eat food. Maybe there's someone who wants to eat their food, then brush their teeth. Just kind of depends on what they want to do. Let's say they're a wake up. They don't put on clothes yet. They'll go from wake up to eat food, and then they'll go to bathroom routine, which will include shower, the bowel movement, teeth brush, the whole thing. So we'll say bathroom routine. Right? There's usually another step in here of put on clothes, which they would do after they've showered, right? So we have clothes. Yeah, and then we would have transportation. Transport. So they have to actually get to the work. Okay, this is a basic process that has 5 components. Now what you can do here is you could say, okay, is any one of these actually dependent on the other? In a standard process map, you're saying this thing goes to this thing, goes to this thing, goes to this thing. In a dependency map, these arrows are indicating that this thing requires this thing in order to function. It needs it or it's not going to happen. So if you don't eat food, you can't go to the bathroom, is what this is effectively saying. If you don't go to the bathroom, you can't put on clothes. If you do not shower, it is unacceptable that you could not clean yourself and put on clothes. It would just simply make them too dirty. That is what this implies. Now, what you can do here, what often is done with this, is we'll say, okay, the goal of morning routine is to wake up and get to work. What happens if we take one of these out? What do you do? A common thing that will come up is, okay, you wake up and you find that your fridge doesn't work and all of your morning food is moldy or inedible, and you don't have cereal or something in the pantry. So we're taking out eat food. So eat food gets taken out. How do we fix that? Well, they might order something or move eat food to kind of over here as part of transportation, leave their house early, and then find food outside, that sort of thing. So they don't really wake up and eat food aren't really that related necessarily. So they might want to basically do this. So instead of that eat food, they could take out, because this eat food is implied to be breakfast, right? So they're doing that sort of process map. And you could continue with this. A lot of fun that we have is we say moths eat all your clothes. You wake up and all of your clothes are gone. The moths ate them off of your sleeping body. You wake up naked. There are no clothes in the house. What do you do? And some truly industrious students will say, okay, well, I'm going to put on a garbage bag and go ask the neighbor. Fair enough. But either way, this is the kind of idea. This is not what this process map actually looks like. The way that you would do this if you were making a dependency map, a dependency style process map would be this. So the way this would normally look would be you'd have to put all of these things out kind of in a spreaded web, and then you'd have to find out how they interconnect. So we had wake up, we had eat food, we had transport, we had bathroom, and we had clothes. Clothes. Okay. Now, if this was a business, you could have these be the various functions or processes or whatever that you've decided at the start of the business, but for now, we're going to start here. Wake up. How many of these things require wake up in order to function? So wake up is a process. Can you eat food if you don't wake up? Can you put on clothes if you don't wake up? Can you, etc.? Turns out all 4 of these things are actually dependent upon wake up. If wake up fails, you can't do any of this. So let's look at this wake up thing first here too. Eat food, clothes, bathroom, and transport. Is wake up dependent on any one of those? Well, eating food, wake up would be dependent on that, because if you didn't eat food, you would starve to death. But this is specifically within the scope of a morning routine. So that's kind of implied that it's not part of this, because you're specifically looking at your morning. You don't starve to death because you've jumped in a time machine and missed your breakfast. So wake up isn't really dependent on anything here. It just kind of feeds in the other way. This is why the direction of the arrows kind of matters. Okay, eat food. Do I need to wake up to eat food? Yes. Do I need clothes to eat food? No. Do I need to go to the bathroom to eat food? Depends. Are you the type of person that simply must brush their teeth before they eat? Is this a thing that you must do? Are you not comfortable unless you do so? If so, then eat food might be dependent on bathroom. If it's only sometimes, if it's like generally I would like this to happen, but if it doesn't happen for a few days, then maybe not. And if bathroom, you're the type of person who wants to brush their teeth and then eat food, fair enough. Then bathroom might actually have a different type of line. A partial dependency, indicating that you don't necessarily have to have it, but it wants to have it. If this fails for too long, maybe they won't like it. Well, actually, no. So a partial dependency would be it only partly impacts it. Technically, if bathroom failed for long enough, so let's say you couldn't brush your teeth for a week, and you're the type of person who said, you know what, that is simply unacceptable. You can't have that much of a failure. Then actually, this is still a full-on dependency, but the time it takes for this to fail, until this gets impacted, is longer. I'll get to that in a bit. But anyways, you can go through all of this. Do you need to use the bathroom to be transported? Not really. Well, maybe. Can I go out without my bowel movement in the morning? Is someone going to do that? No, you could say that, without going to the bathroom, I'm just not going to deal. Fine. Clothes. Are you going to go to work in your pajamas? Nope, transport probably needs clothes. Eat food. Can you skip eat food for transport? Some people will just skip their breakfast, so it's not necessary. They can go till lunch. So eat food and transport here, probably not a full dependency. Maybe you might want it on some days where you have a really big day, and if you miss your breakfast, it's just not happening. So depending on the job, why not? Let's put a partial in there. Okay, this is a more dependency map style of a process map. This is not a timeline. The previous example was a timeline. You did this, then you did this, then you did this, then you did this. You could say, look, I have to leave at 8 o'clock. I have to wake up at 7, or maybe 6 and 7, whatever. You have different times. And then you look at this and you say, okay, I start at a certain time. This takes 20 minutes. This takes 5 minutes. This takes How long does this take? When do I have to leave? And you can see how much time you have from each to move around. That would be a process map in a timeline. This map focuses on one thing fails, what happens because of it. So let's say that we wake up at 7 o'clock. We wake up at 7 a.m. and we want to leave the house at 8 a.m. This would be kind of tied into an RTO or some sort of other thing in a different section for when your tolerable timeline would be. We're just kind of pulling this for now. You wouldn't combine them yet, but you can kind of see where this goes. So let's say that that's kind of our goal for this whole thing. We could say that how long does it take for when you don't wake up for it to start affecting these things? So if wake up goes offline, how long does it take for eat food to start being affected, for clothes to start being affected, for etc. to start being affected? This is a question that we have. So when we look at these lines, the line would say, look, if this gets delayed, how long until it matters? Another way to think about this, if you have a business, would be internet. So the internet goes out, how long until insert department starts feeling the internet going out? So close starts feeling the fact that it can't start because of wake up basically immediately, or it would start feeling it whenever the close process would start. So if all of these kind of start together, then wake up starts affecting it in like 5 seconds, right? All of these are like 5 seconds. So every time you hit that snooze button, everything gets delayed. Close to transport. When you delay close, how long until it affects transport? Well, if your close happens right before transportation, then maybe this getting delayed only happens once a certain amount of time has passed. So let's say that you start at 7 a.m. when you wake up, you need to leave at 8, but normally you put your close on at 7:45. You could say that wake up only affects close in 45 minutes. You could say close only affects transport once it's been gone for 15 minutes, which is when transport's past the 8 o'clock time off. You could put a whole bunch of different things in here. You'd have to decide what that is. Let's say for the sake of argument, close only starts affecting transport. Transport only notices after 15 minutes, because that's when that 8 o'clock time gets delayed. Same thing, bathroom affecting transport. Let's say that wake up, affects bathroom here. When does that happen? When does that hit transport? We could say, once again, bathroom might happen immediately in this process. So that would only happen directly after, let's say, 50 minutes. It takes you, 5-10 minutes to wake up, whatever. Do your whole wake up routine, stretch, roll out of bed. And then, only when you've been in the bathroom for 50 minutes is your transport delayed directly. With eat food, if you eat food right after bathroom, your bathroom normally takes you 15 minutes, ballpark. Then this only gets delayed after 15 minutes. If eat food is required to go into transport, then how long does that take, etc. Why am I writing all these numbers down? If you have a process that goes from one thing to one thing to one thing to one thing, it can be interrupted directly or it can be interrupted indirectly. So seeing the pathway in which something gets interrupted will change things. It can make a significant difference. If you have a section of a company that gets interrupted because of a direct dependency, that's one thing. If you have a section of a company that gets interrupted because of something being lost ricocheting through the organization until it lands on it, that's another thing. General idea with this. You can move these around, you can change what you want, you can make this into a linear process. You could say that everything here is just dependent on everything else. For example, you could have a very rigid schedule and you could decide that this is entirely linear, but in a kind of like box thing. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I'll keep this kind of smudged for a second here just so we can prove the point, and then we'll clean it up before I show you the corporate one or the business one. Okay, so if we said that this person, for whatever reason, needs to wake up and then go to the bathroom, and this is dependent, it must happen in this order at all times because whatever reason, fine, there's a direct line. If after bathroom, they want to put on clothes immediately because that's what they do after the bathroom, fine, that's a direct line. If close until eat food, if they will only eat food after they've put on clothes because that's the rigid morning routine, fine, no problem, direct line. Then if they will only go to the car, go to the bus, whatever, go to work after eat food, then that's a direct line. This would be a linear process. With this in mind, if, for example, from wake up to bathroom, if you start waking up at 7 o'clock and you go to the bathroom at 7:05, then bathroom is affected after wake up is delayed by 5 minutes. When bathroom goes to close, how long do you take in the bathroom? Let's say it's 15 minutes. Close would be delayed once bathroom has been delayed for more than 15 minutes. Same thing, close. How long does it take you to put on clothes after you're in the bathroom? Let's say it takes you 2 minutes. Eat food is only delayed once clothes has been down for more than 2 minutes, because then you're eating into extra time. Eat food to transport. So you have 5 minutes there, you've got 15 minutes there, you've got 2 minutes there. Your eat food has started at some given time. Let's figure out how much time you take to eat food. Maybe you're really enjoying yourself. You have to make some food and then eat it. You take a good half an hour to just kind of relax and eat your food. Fine. Transport only gets delayed once eat food has been offline for 30 minutes. This is an example. This doesn't have to be necessarily like the exact way it works, but for whatever reason, this is the way the person works, fine. So 5 plus 15 plus 30, that is 50, plus 2 is 52 minutes. This is 60 minutes. That's 52. You've got 8 minutes of wiggle room. Okay, I can tell you that if wake up fails to transportation, it looks like after 52 minutes, transportation starts getting affected, but indirectly, it's really 60 minutes because you've accounted for extra in here. So what's happened is this whole process takes 52 minutes, and the person who designed the process worked in 8 minutes of margin of error. But the reality is, after those 8 minutes, transportation has probably hit its built-in RTO starting to count down. So let's say you're late on transportation and you're only willing to be late on transportation for, let's say anything more than half an hour is intolerable. So anything more than 8:30 start to leave is just not happening, okay? 8:30 is the maximum you're willing to do. Then the reality is that the RTO in the other section of transportation is probably 30 minutes. You have to be operational within 30 minutes. This transportation thing can only be delayed by anything in this process combined being delayed by 38 minutes. Are we following so far? Okay. What do you take away from this? You can hit that snooze button, assuming there's no delays anywhere, up to 38 minutes before you think that the effect on you getting to work is intolerable. Now, this assumes that everything goes to plan. Good luck with that. Let's say that we take out close. How much longer can close take, right? This is the critical process. This is another thing I want to actually talk about for a second. When you're looking at a dependency map right now, you're not going to say, one piece of confusion that I might be getting is, yeah, but why do I care? Like, what is this? Why is isn't this what's important here? Why are we going through all this? We haven't combined the stuff yet. When we combine all the stuff, you're going to look at the criticalities in the previous section and look at what's highest priority. I'm going to tell you with a process like this, transportation is probably going to be criticality 1. You're probably going to view this whole process map through the lens of what do I need to do to protect this section in the dependency. If you decided that in addition to transportation, for whatever reason, this was also criticality 1, then the way that you would approach this would change. Okay? This is the major idea. Now I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to show you an example with the standard functions we've put for business in other sections. We've got six functions. Sales. IT for segment. Ops. Marketing. Admin. Finance. Everyone gets a box or a circle or whatever. Everyone gets a little home to live in. Starting point. What needs what in what way? Go step by step. What here needs sales directly to do its job? So what functions takes input from sales in order to do its job? If sales doesn't give it an input, it can't do what it needs to do. Who's going to take the information from sales in the organization in order to process it? I'm going to tell you, for this organization, it's probably admin and or finance. One of these two will happen. In a larger organization, it's probably admin is going to direct it to finance. So we know sales is going to have a direct line into admin. Admin can't serve its function unless sales is giving it input. And then finance requires the transfer of that data from admin that's going to send it the email or whatever. So there's going to be an arrow there going to finance from admin at a minimum. So we know that process exists. If there are multiple processes that exist, then maybe some of these are partial, because if finance doesn't only do things from admin, if it can do other stuff without admin requiring it, maybe this is a partial dependency. I'm going to keep these bolded lines for now before things get way too complicated. Okay, but we have that for sure. Does ops need sales in order to do its job? Well, sure, I need to make a sale in order for ops to have something to produce. However, how does ops get that information? How does it get that directive? It probably gets it from admin. Doesn't get it from sales directly. Admin's probably filtering that and then sending out what needs to go where. Sales and marketing. Does marketing need to get stuff from sales in order to do its job? No, probably not. Does sales need information from marketing? Probably. The marketing department is probably going to tell sales what the landscape is like and impact sales packages and how they're doing things. Sales is probably taking that as a feed-in. Depends on the company. In this company that we've envisioned here, the marketing function was one that mostly worked with conferences and was on a longer time scale. So not necessarily, but for the sake of argument here and making this simple, most companies, sales is going to have some input from marketing. Now, it's not going to need it every day, but at some point if marketing fails, this may be a problem. Okay, does sales need IT? There's a question. Is it doing stuff that is technologically required? Does it need access to company servers in order to do stuff? The type of sales department that we were talking about for this company, no. This company does not actually need the IT department to do sales necessarily. It would like it, but it doesn't need it. So sales doesn't fail if IT is knocked out. Sales can operate without it. We have that. Admin will need it, but we'll get there in a second. Does sales need to have an interaction with finance directly? No, it would all go through admin. Okay. In this particular company I'm thinking about, in others, there may be a direct line. IT, this one's going to be pretty straightforward. What is IT connected to? Does ops need IT? Does admin need IT? Admin definitely needs IT, otherwise they don't have computers. Does marketing need IT? Yes, they do. I'm going to use a different color here so that our lines don't get way too confusing. Let's start using pink. So marketing needs IT. Does finance need IT? Yes, it does. It does need IT. Once again, the colors here are not anything more than just so crossed lines don't get confusing. It's just to see where if arrows are on top of each other, it makes things a bit easier. Does ops need IT is kind of the magic question. We'll say for this system, it kind of does. It does eventually, so yeah, we'll do that. Okay. I was thinking about previous examples and things we were talking about in other sections, and ops can work without it, but eventually it's going to need some computer feedback or things aren't going to work, so that's fine. Ops needs IT. Does finance need ops? Does Does producing stuff directly lead to the financial department? No, it wouldn't. Does admin need ops? Well, is admin taking information from ops and then distributing it via emails? Yes, probably. That means that this magical arrow here is actually two-directional. Both of these are codependent on each other for different reasons. Does marketing need ops? Not directly, probably not. So we have ops there, sales need ops. No, okay, we got the main ops connections. Ops is dependent on IT and dependent on admin, and otherwise is just kind of doing its thing. Finance needs admin, that makes sense. Finance needs tech, that makes sense. Does finance need anything else here? Not really. The finance is pretty much tell me what I need to do, give you the emails that I need, make sure my computer works, I'm good to go. Marketing will need admin because it has to receive commands and etc. from leadership. Leadership is sending stuff through admin. You could make another box for leadership, but we didn't in the original scope, so leadership isn't included. Enjoy that. Marketing, finance, good. So this is a roughly completed dependency map, a rough draft of one. We have here our 6 functions, and we have how they relate to each other. We don't have the exact way the relation is, and we don't have times on it yet, but we can add those. So you could have a separate document, for example, that goes through each arrow and explains them if you want to. Ideally, you would, the most important thing is understanding what the times of these arrows are. So this is where the dependency map can get a bit more advanced, but the value here is very important. So when IT goes down, how long until each section here feels it is the first question you have. So IT goes down. How long until finance notices the IT goes down? I'm going to say that that is about instantaneously. They're going to notice about instantly that their computers don't work. So it's going to be something like 1 second. Right? They're going to know immediately. Admin is going to know in about 1 second. Marketing is going to know in about 1 second. Ops is going to know maybe not necessarily in 1 second. It's not necessarily going to get affected by it in 1 second. Finance, admin, and marketing will probably be effectively shut down. When IT goes down, their RTOs will start ticking when that interruption happens. Ops, it might run without it for a day. It might run without it for a week. It might run without it for an extended period of time because it can just go analog. So it's not going to start being shut down for a while. So how long can ops go without IT in this given OEM manufacturer assembly line sort of situation? I'm going to say for the sake of argument, it's going to be a week until the RTO for ops starts ticking because IT was shut down. So we have these arrows. You fill in the rest of the arrows as needed. So admin requires input from sales. How long does sales have to be down for before admin gets shut down because of it? How long can we not receive new sales for? Can we not receive information from sales for before admin just gets shut down? This is a very complicated question. And frankly, it might be impossible for sales to shut down admin directly, other than we have so little money, we actually have a hiring problem. This could be a very tricky relationship. With a lot of companies, this is going to be a partial dependency at best. And this might have a really long time span of years before this gets directly affected. But it could still happen. So let's say that this is related to stakeholder relations too, and admin gets effectively shut down or gets impacted to the point where it might as well be shut down after 2 years through this pathway. Ops and admin, you have times in both directions. So admin, how long does it take until ops gets shut down by admin if admin is off? Ops requires admin in order to know what work it's processing. It can have current work orders for the day, and it can have certain things it's doing, but at some point it runs out of, I need to know I'm doing this, and it just stops producing. So let's say that ops gets its information for what it's going to be producing a week in advance. It has a week's worth of work orders, and then other than that, after a week, work stops. So in this direction, it is going to be a week. And this is where things get fun, when you start getting arrows beside each other and it gets kind of complicated. So in this direction, we have 1 week. How long until ops, not giving admin information, does admin basically get shut down because it's not processing orders and etc.? This, similar to sales, could be a very long time because that's not everything that admin does. So for that direction, although if it's not producing at all, it could have backlog. There's all sorts of things you could use to justify this. It would just depend. We can say that from drowned in backlog problems, admin gets effectively shut down after a month because reasons. I've heard all sorts of reasons for things. It's going to come down to what the company's opinion is. If you don't like the reason I'm giving, I didn't like the reason the client gave me either, but it's the reason they gave me, so that's the number on the chart. So, you know, whatever. So if the number's a month because they say it's a month, fine. We have that, hooray. Okay, marketing to sales. How long without marketing does it affect sales' ability to do its job? So this could be our sales materials, our understanding of the marketplace is so out of date we effectively can't do our job because we're not relevant or current anymore. We need that input to relate to clients, or our ability to do our job is impacted such that we look like idiots, we might as well not be working, like that sort of idea. Okay, if it's a conference thing because of the way this company is, this is probably a year. So this is probably 1 year. That's what that arrow will represent. So if this is down for a year, this starts feeling it. If admin is down for how long, does it become a finance issue? Well, finance isn't going to care about its emails for over a week, really. It can just keep doing its own thing as long as it has access to a computer. It doesn't need new inputs from finance necessarily. After a month of no input from admin, though, now you're running into billing issues. We could say if admin's handling payroll and HR function, this could probably be 2 weeks. Finance can't do its job of making sure money goes where it needs to go for payroll unless admin sends it that. So this arrow could be 2 weeks. And frankly, if finance is sending payroll out to the entire company, then guess what? Everybody now needs finance. Because if you don't pay me, I shut down. And I'm on a 2-week timeline, so this is 2 weeks everywhere. Because you don't pay me for 2 weeks, I'm going home. And that means the section is shut down. This can evolve very quickly. So we have that, marketing admin. I'm going to put in a month because reasons. It's not that, but you guys are going to get the point. And making these numbers exact for this example doesn't really matter. So you have a basic dependency map. It looks absolutely colorful and garbled. You are probably doing this on chart paper with markers. Good, because you're going to have to rewrite it 15 times. You could use sticky notes for these different functions because you might want to move them around and then move where the arrows are going. Mess with this until it looks like something that you can understand, and then ideally digitize it. Make it in some sort of program. You can use any sort of process mapping program. There's a bunch of free ones. You can take pictures of chart paper or something on a whiteboard, whatever, but make this something that you can kind of work with. Because ideally, after this, you're then going to be able to combine all this stuff together and then say, okay, I've got process map, I've got all my different charts. How do these different things affect these different things? How does this stuff all fail together? As an example, I'm not going to go through the whole thing yet. That'll be in a different video. But if, for example, we said ops was the most important thing. So I'm going to say that ops is criticality 1. So ops is number 1. We need ops, okay? And I want to see how I can destroy ops. I'm going to look and say, okay, if ops goes down, I have a certain amount of time I'm willing to tolerate for ops being down. So that could have been a day or a week or whatever. Ops is going to have some sort of RTO. If ops is the one thing that I care about, then I want to make sure that ops is protected to its RTO at a certain point. I'm going to also want to make sure that ops is protected through the ways these things hit it. So if IT goes down, ops feels it in 1 week. Ops's RTO is, let's say, a week. 1 plus 1 week, 2 weeks. I have to make sure that IT is back online sufficient that ops can operate within 2 weeks, or I have a criticality 1 level problem. That's how this is going to work. Let's shut down ops through sales. Admin gets shut down through sales kind of after 2 years, and then admin being shut down by sales after 2 years will shut down ops after 1 week. Here's an example of how this could happen. After 2 years of no increased sales, we simply don't have enough work orders, which means ops doesn't have enough inputs, so admin isn't giving ops anything. This business has decided that after 2 years of insufficient business retention, admin is not able to do its job of making enough work orders, and then ops can't produce things. Our core business, our reason for existence, ops, is killed after 2 years and 1 week, approximately 2 years in general, of no sufficient sales. The lack of sales is a problem because it shut down ops. On its own, if sales is criticality like 3 or something, who cares? I care about, this is why I exist. This is what I'm doing. If this was a fire department, same thing. If this ops was like life-saving and this was some other function, I care about this function insofar that it ends up shutting down why I exist. Okay? So that's how you would use these times. You can basically just add stuff together and then see where it goes. That's what we're mapping all this out. Just wait until we put all this together. Dependencies.